Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shout Tech. I've always loved it when companies try to bring PCs to the market pre-installed with Linux on them. There have been quite a few attempts over the years, and some of them are even still sold today, such as System76's wonderful line of computers. An earlier notable example I can think of is a company called Microtel that used to sell budget PCs at Walmart equipped with Lindos. The original Microtel Sysmar PC sold for around $200 in 2002. As far as I can tell, however, Microtel isn't around anymore. Another example is Penguin Computing. As you can see in this ad from the June 2000 edition of Linux Format, they used to sell workstations with Linux, such as this dual-headed one. Penguin Computing is still around, however, these days they cater exclusively to the enterprise data center market. This video is not about any of those attempts, but instead about an attempt from the Taiwanese-based manufacturer Asus. In 2007, Asus released the first of its UMPCs, or Ultra Mobile PCs, to the market, the Eee PC.
I love to travel on all kinds of different journeys. The simple and lightweight Eee PC gives me total freedom wherever I go.
This tiny laptop cost around $400 in 2007, which was bananas. Other than its diminutive size, the Eee PC was unique for its inclusion of a Linux desktop based on the Xandros distribution. Now, what I have here is one of the earliest models of Asus's Eee PC lineup. This is an Eee PC 702, originally equipped with an 8GB SSD and 1GB of RAM. This one was upgraded at some point to have 2GB of RAM. The CPU is an Intel Celeron clocked at a blisteringly fast 900 MHz. A quick interrupt here. While the CPU in the original Eee PC was indeed a Celeron M ULV353 with a standard clock rate of 900 MHz, Asus decided to clock the 700 series at around 630 MHz. Presumably to save on power, who knows? The memory and SSD can be accessed from this bottom panel. Now, what's interesting about this one is it's got a Windows XP Professional license on the bottom, but as far as I can tell, the Eee PC never came originally sold with Windows XP Pro. You could get them with Windows XP Home, but I don't think this ever actually came with either of them. Something else to point out about the bottom of this is this little hole right here, which might be kind of hard to see on the video. This little hole right here is the built-in microphone. On the left side of the Eee PC, we have an Ethernet port, a telephone jack for the 56K modem, a USB 2.0 port, a microphone, and a headphone jack. On the right side is the SD card slot, two more USB 2.0 ports, and a VGA port. Opening it up really shows how small this actually is. The 7-inch screen is sandwiched by two speakers. At the top here is the webcam. There is a trackpad, which is quite small, but in practice that's not too much of an issue simply because the screen itself is so small. This looks like one button, but there are actually two physical buttons underneath this. There is for a left and a right click on the mouse. The keyboard is really tiny and cramped. For I don't know if they're large or small hands, but for my adult hands, it is extremely difficult to type on this. Comparing it next to, for example, my Framework laptop, you can see just how small that keyboard actually is. That is probably my largest complaint about this, is how tiny this keyboard is and how incredibly difficult it is for me to type on. Having gone over the hardware, let's go ahead and turn it on and see what the Eee PC experience was like. I'll be right back as I need to give it some power since the battery in it does not last very long. All right, now that we've got power and a little bit of a change of a scenery here, we're going to turn it on and see what the Asus Eee PC experience was like. Right before turning this on, I had wiped it to and restored it to the factory settings. I'll show how to do that towards the end of the video here. Now that it's booted, we will have to accept the license agreement. I totally have read all of this. Keyboard layout, put in a name, and a super secret password. Turn away, don't look. Keep looking away, don't look at the password I'm typing. All right, you can look now. All right, we're gonna change this from America, New York to America, Denver. America. Finish. Now that we've done that initial configuration, it's going to reboot here. And now we are presented with the Linux desktop. If you are familiar at all with Linux, this looks nothing like anything you've seen before on Linux. It's got actually what I think is a very easy to use interface considering the small size of this machine. The first thing I want to do is connect it to a wireless network. We click wireless networks here. And after a hot minute, we should start seeing a list of wireless networks in the area. My neighborhood is full of them. I'm going to sort by the strongest and pick my guest network. It's a WPA. Super secret password. And now it's going to try and connect. We can hit the details button and see some logs. And with any luck, this will get a DHCP address and connect successfully. Okay, so it looks like it did connect. It just took it a hot minute. We're gonna launch a web browser now, and unfortunately, the web browser installed on this is Firefox 2.0. That's too old to actually use for browsing the web anymore. We can see here that even just trying to load the Firefox page, we get this certificate is signed by an unknown authority. That's because the root certificate Mozilla is using these days is far newer than anything that would have come with this laptop. We're gonna just go ahead and accept it permanently for now and just see. Okay, and it's telling us we're requesting an encrypted page. That's okay. And yeah, it wants to load. Same thing with the Google Analytics. Google Analytics is signed by an unknown authority. We're just not gonna accept that one. And yeah, it sort of loads the Firefox homepage, but also not. Like, this is not rendering properly at all. In the second tab here, you can also see it tried to load the EeePC website from Asus, and that's also not working. So we can go back to home here, and let's try one of these other links, like the Wikipedia. And unfortunately, it can't connect to Wikipedia. It can't connect to Wikipedia because the SSL security protocol is just too new for it. My guess is Wikipedia is requiring TLS 1.2, and I don't know if Firefox 2.0 even supports that. So we can see that browsing the web is not really going to be something we can do today on the Eee PC. Let's see what else we can do though. Webmail is really just some bookmarks to webmail providers. Messenger. The Messenger app loads Pigeon, and you can configure Pigeon to connect to AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Instant Messenger, MSN Messenger, I don't know. Pigeon supports a ton of different IM protocols. It came with Skype installed, which is pretty cool. This internet radio thing is a bookmark to some website that just doesn't load anymore, so we're not even going to bother. Same Google Docs. Google Docs is a bookmark to Google Docs, and it, of course, doesn't load either. We go over to work. We've got some work things here, like accessories. We can open a calculator, screen capture, PIM software, documents. So these all open in openoffice.org. Writer, Calc, whatever the presentation app for OpenOffice is. We can open OpenOffice Writer. Yeah, we can do some basic like word processing, except this keyboard, even if I weren't trying to wrap myself around the tripod here, this keyboard is just terrible. It's way too small. So, I mean, you could write a document if you had small fingers, I guess. Some other stuff. Mail would open up Thunderbird. Not going to bother with that. File Manager opens up the KDE File Manager. I guess there's not much to say about the File Manager. You can go to your home directory, look in the documents. Looks like you could pull up any printers that are on the network, Windows network and NFS file shares. You can click all file systems and then you can find your root file system and go browsing that. Let's go over to the Learn tab. There's some sciencey things here, like we could pull up the periodic table and take a look at, let's look at aluminum right here. You can see information about aluminum, its atomic number, its mass, a picture of it, a little bit of aluminum in a vial. Miscellaneous says this element was discovered in the year 1825. So yeah, some interesting stuff here. The planetarium app loads. It's K-Stars. And the first time you load it, you're going to be prompted to select your city. We're going to just start typing Denver. Yep, there's Denver. We could try to download extra data. It's going to try to connect to edu.kde.org, but it cannot. So we can't download any extra data. And let's see, we could zoom out and you get a better picture of what this constellation, you can get a better picture of what the planetarium app is. So here's Ursa Major. Kind of spin around and look at all the different constellations and where they are right now. Except you can't actually see any constellations right now because it's daytime here. And I can't really see any constellations in the city anyways. Moving on, there's some language and math stuff. A couple of different paint programs. My favorite paint program ever, Tux Paint. The kids really have a lot of fun with this app. It's pretty difficult to actually use with the trackpad here. Okay, on the Play tab, we have a few other things. We have some games, the Media Player, Music Manager, Photo Manager. The Photo Manager one is certainly interesting. It's got a lot of like photos already on it. It's just interesting what Asus decided to include with this operating system. Just a bunch of different random photos. So you could load your vacation photo album on here and look at all the different pictures. What else? Webcam. Hi. There he goes. It's brightening it up a little bit. The webcam on here is a 640 by 480 resolution. Quality is, yeah, you see it's pretty mediocre. But, I mean, I suppose you could do probably some Zoom conferences, except Zoom wasn't really a thing back in 2007. Yeah. Some games. Everything's got to come with solitaire. In this case, it's K Patience, or actually, what is that, Klondike? It is K Patience. Yeah, so it's K Patience. There's a potato guy. This is for doing all the potato heady things. Yeah, pretty fun. Frozen Bubble, Ultras, Crack Attack, Penguin Racer. I've always known Penguin Racer as Tux Racer. I don't know. I never knew it could also be called Penguin Racer. That's a fun game. Under settings, we get information about the operating system and ways. Under settings, we see a lot of different utility applications. It's got an antivirus. I don't know if this is ClamAV or something else. We can configure printers here, add, remove software. This would normally connect to Asus's Eee PC repositories, except those don't work anymore. So the only thing here we can actually do is remove software. Normally you'd be able to add some new software or update anything that's already installed. System info, we can take a look at some of the info on it. We could see that it's an Eee PC with software 1.0.6.6, 1 GB of RAM. That's not right. Let's go into diagnostic tools. We can actually see here that it's got 2 gigs of RAM. The screen is 800 by 480 with a massive 16-bit color depth. That's awesome. You can go through and test different things. Like if I want to test the speakers. We can also test the internal microphone. This is a test of the microphone on the Eee PC. This is a test of the microphone on the Eee PC. So even though the microphone is in a terrible spot beneath the trackpad, that sounds okay. And it seems to pick up my voice pretty well. And yeah, you can test all the other devices on here. Like if we go into panel, it'll do a full screen black, full screen white, and then rainbows. So yeah, you get everything's working. Disk utility, you can see that we're using 2.3 gigabytes, or no. Oh, so the system partition is taking up 2.3 gigabytes. 151 megabytes is used by the user, and we have 5-ish gigabytes available. If you had another drive installed on here, you could go ahead and format. Some of these Eee PCs had not only SSD memory chips soldered onto the board, but then you could add on a second drive. This one is actually missing the chips on the board and instead has an 8 gigabyte drive in that secondary slot. So I can't actually put an extra drive in here. Before we go, let me show you how easy it is to wipe the machine and put it back to factory settings. First, we restart it. Once the BIOS splash screen shows up, we start smashing F9, and then we get this menu: normal, perform disk scan, or restore factory settings. We'll go into restore factory settings and type yes. Now you'll see here it says formatting user partition. The Eee PC has a fairly unique setup to how it partitions the file systems. It's got 2 partitions. The first one is the root file system that contains the application in the system. That's actually mounted read-only. There's a second user partition that takes up the rest of the space on the disk. That's mounted read-write, and using a union file system, it's overlaid on top of the read-only file system. So any changes you make during a session is done on that read-write file system. So to wipe it, all you have to do is format that read-write file system and bam, we're back at factory settings. Super easy. I am terrible at this game. I guess I'm not that bad at it. Alright. Thank you for watching this episode on the Asus Eee PC. I always like to get my hands on any kind of hardware that came with Linux already on it, so I was happy to get one of these. The Eee PC is responsible for setting quite a few trends in the marketplace, especially the proliferation of netbooks. Unfortunately, it did not set a trend for equipping PCs with Linux. There were always rumors that Microsoft strong-armed Asus into putting Windows on the Eee PCs, but regardless, the Windows models far outsold the ones equipped with Linux. A few years later, you couldn't even get an Eee PC with Linux on it anymore. And that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more cool retro-y Linux things, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see in the future.